Hey guys, back for another episode. Today we're going to be mocking up the Megalo. So I have all the parts that we cleaned up last episode. We're going to go ahead and mock everything up, make sure everything fits. We are going to look at some new stuff that I bought to kind of go on this, to kind of button it up a little bit. But for now what we're going to do is we're going to take all these parts here off the truck, all that stuff we cleaned up, and we're going to go ahead and kind of just put it on here, make sure everything still fits, that everything's going to line up properly. So we'll go ahead and grab all these parts and start reassembling on this, and we'll hopefully see what it looks like pretty much completed. Let's go. So here we can see one of the side panels. Again, we still need to do our touch-up, but this is just kind of mocking stuff up. But you can see here where it fits on the side. See if I can get this off with one hand. It's kind of a pain, but basically they clip in. They've got little like slots that they slide in here in the top. And then basically they kind of fit on and go all the way to the back. So once that top piece is on, it kind of fits more like a completed shell. So we do have to tighten these up on the inside. There's a couple nuts there, and then we have 2 bolts that go down here. And we'll bolt in as well and get those on. But again, we're just mocking everything up, tightening it up, and we'll do the other side and kind of follow this as we go along. All right, so we have the top panel on, and you can kind of see here how they actually fit together. So here's that side panel that we cleaned up, and this top part is a little bit more brighter white, which is kind of a bummer, but I think once it's inside, you really won't notice once it's in FGP. But you can see here kind of more how it fits like an actual complete candy cab rather than kind of pieced together. So we're gonna keep throwing some stuff on here to test it, and then we are gonna put the power back in. We're gonna run the speakers. We're gonna do all that stuff today. But so far, everything's lining up. The gaps are really nice here, actually. Thought I'd have to maybe like space some stuff out, but once we tighten these up, it's gonna pull it really close together. So this will just look like panel gap on a car. So far, so good. Let's keep at it. All right, so we got our little side protector pieces on. We got one on this side that's held in by these like M4, M5 bolts. And then over here we have these ones held on. But what these do is these kind of join the sides together here. So now when we put the panel on the top, everything will look more fit and not like there's pieces missing. So this angle isn't perfect, but I don't think it's perfect from the factory because this is lined up properly. Everything's mounted, but you can kind of see here the idea what they were going for is making it more of like a completed, kind of like a real candy cab, I guess. But throw the panel on, see how everything lines up. Getting closer. Right, so panel's mounted here. Unfortunately, you can see the back not lining up properly. So we are going to have to modify this mount, and this is exactly why we do mock-up stuff, so we can see what we need to adjust before final fitting and bringing it up there. So we do have to modify basically the underside of where these bolts rest. We got to widen up the hole so these bolts can go all the way through, and then we can mount them. So that won't be today, but we can keep going with mock-up to kind of see how everything else is going to fit. But kind of a bummer, but it'll probably take about an hour to fix that. So not terrible, but again, that's why we do this. But overall, it's looking pretty cool. So we'll keep it going. All right, so what we need to do is these little brackets right here, they're actually up a little too far for what I did with the panel. So we actually have to Dremel, make this more of like an oval. So over here, I'd started to do it on this side. You can kind of see I never cleaned it up. So I'm gonna take the drill or the Dremel and kind of try to clean it up and just bring it down a little bit so we can bolt it from the bottom once everything's on there. So let's do that so we can see if we can get this lined up and clamp down where it needs to be. All right, so now we see this is more of an oval than a circle. So we're gonna do the same thing over here and clean this one up. As you can see, that's just double circle. Don't make fun of me, but we're gonna clean that up. All right, so we have the middle mounted and Dremeled, and look at that. It actually fits on the side. So that's kind of cool. So you can see it here from the side. Kind of drop down where it needed to be. So all that stuff is straight. So now we can continue with the mock-up, but a little setback, but it looks cool now. It's starting to look good. Pretty cool. Another quick back angle from the other side here. You can kind of see how flush everything sits now. So I'm really happy with that. It came out really good. It's kind of a headache doing all this stuff. And one of my measurements is off a little bit, so I have to cut. Once we come back and do the final assembly, I'll have to cut like a 1/4 of an inch off the metal brackets that are underneath the start buttons. I measured wrong, but that's how you learn stuff. So we'll cut that, redo all that, keep it moving. All right, so what we have to do, this is the, I don't know what they're actually called, but I'm gonna call it the sandwich tray, but these actually mount under here, under the bottom of the cab. So what I need to do is basically, it's gonna sit like this, And then what I need to do is take the marker here and kind of mark how far over it goes. Because what we're going to do is we're going to be building a little wood platform for our Brook PCBs to sit on. So I'm just marking each one of these basically with how far it needs to sit. So when we put our PCBs there, we have a nice platform for it to sit on. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark those, and now I know that my piece of wood needs to fit right here on this side of the marker. So we know here, it's kind of hard to see, but we'll have an idea now where our PCB needs to sit. So we can do that on the other side, then we'll know where that needs to go. All right, so we're starting to take this thing down because what I need to do is tuck our speakers all the way back here. So I'm gonna pull these out, pull this back off, and then we're gonna get those speakers mounted up. And then I do have the subwoofer. We're gonna mount it in the seat that's covered up with a bunch of crap right now, but I promise you that is the seat. So we're gonna get all that stuff done, but I gotta take all this stuff off to mount those speakers in here, so let's get to it. All right, so we're back, and we're gonna use these speakers that we looked at in the earlier episode, and I tried my best to get this stupid surface rust off, but it's not coming off without painting it, and we don't need to paint them. So anyways, the speakers kind of sit, we have our terminals here on the back, and we're actually gonna put them, they mount directly on here. So there's a mount hole on the bottom, and then there's these two on the back here. They sit like this, and then you basically mount it from the bottom and then the back, and then you run your speakers down through this channel tub into the actual cab where the amp will be. So we're gonna go ahead and get these guys mounted on. Again, they just, one sits here, one sits here. So we'll get those guys tightened up and take a look at it. All right, so we found our first washer and nut here that are gonna work. So this basically is gonna mount like this again. So our terminal's at the top. So we have to go from the bottom through here and kind of do this. I'm gonna go here into the speaker. So we gotta get it lined up. I'm gonna do my best. I need a bigger shop, guys. Kind of underneath here and get it to thread, hopefully. There we go. Wasn't too bad. And then I'm going to pull the side panel off here to get underneath it and tighten it. I'm just trying to make sure everything's going to line up. And it does. So there's that. Just finger tight for now. And if you take the camera here and look at the back, you can actually see these two back little mount holes right here. Hopefully you guys can see that. Line up perfectly. So we have this, and then our speaker wires are going to come out here and then run through this little channel into where the amp is. So looking pretty cool. All right, and the speakers are mounted. See how strong those boys are? They aren't going anywhere. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this rat's nest of electrical wires that we looked at in an earlier episode and get them actually mounted down there in that little hole there. So put everything back together. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our power brick, and we're basically going to kind of feed everything through here, this little hole right here, and wire it. So what I did is I went through and I found all my original hardware. So again, this is mock-up. We're going to clean this stuff up before we final mount everything. But these 4 bolts go here. And now what we're going to do is take this, kind of feed it through for now, just to get an idea of where everything's going to fit. And we're going to put it, just kind of feed it like that, lines up. And then we just take our hardware and tighten it back up. Everything's kind of tightened up. This will be our new outside. So I'm just going to take our screwdriver, tighten this stuff up, and then we'll see where everything's going to kind of line up inside the cabinet. So we'll be right back. All right, so as you can see, we have our power in there now. We have our little thing kind of sitting there. But this is, I know it's gross looking, but this is the actual original board that fits in here. Sorry, that fits up in here in the Megalo. So we're actually going to reuse this. So again, this will all be sanded before we actually use it. I just want to make sure everything still fits and everything. So this board here lines up here, and then we have a second board over here that I think it goes here. I'm not 100% sure, but we'll check it out once it's in there and make sure everything's lined up still. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this board and just pop it in there real quick. All right, so this is how the actual wood will sit. So we're actually gonna probably have the PlayStation sitting up here. We'll probably have our sound and everything here. And I'm thinking, I don't know if I want to put the power down here in the bottom, or if we want to actually run it like up here, kind of like in the middle. I'm not 100% sure yet. I want to be able to reach the power switch here from the front of the cabinet. So you can still get it to the bottom down here, but I'll probably put it like sideways or something like that down here. This way we can reach everything, and that'll still be enough room for the monitor mount to come through and the sound and everything on there. So we know this now fits We have our speaker, so I'm just gonna go ahead and cut some speaker wire, run it through the bottom here, and kind of just feel around where we want to have everything mounted on the inside of this. All right, so here is basically how the speakers are going to be run. So we have the mounted here, and again, we'll put those other 2 screws to hold them in, but for now, they're fine. We have the little harness there, and it comes through the cab, comes down here, and then we're going to have the sound amp and everything kind of sitting down here. So we'll have enough speaker wire to do that. So we're going to get the other side run, and then before we leave, we'll pull this out so we can take it home and sand all the grossness off of it. These things are actually interesting. They look like transistors, but what these actually were originally is the Model 2 hardware was so heavy. It was in like a metal cage, and it had these really weird like rubber like shock things on them, like rubber like bouncy shocks, and they actually fit on here, and the board would sit on it. And I guess the idea is if they move the cab around, because the cab weighs so much, they didn't want the hard drive or whatever kind of bouncing around. So that's what these are, the little outlines for, these little like weird rubber Sega shock mounts. So probably 3 of you care about that, but I found it interesting. So let's run the other speaker. All right, so we haven't really talked about these. These are like speaker shrouds. So what happens is these actually fit like this. They go underneath this big plastic piece and then underneath the speaker grill. And then this way, when they're in there, the speakers actually hit this little metal thing and it channels the sound up at you. So what I got to do is reverse mount the grills and then sandwich this big plastic piece to the bottom of this, and then this whole thing sits on there. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this mounted up, and then we'll put it on there so you guys can see what that looks like. All right, so we have the speaker shrouds completely on here, and this thing probably weighs like 50, not 50, the thing probably weighs like 30 pounds, and it's so heavy. So we're gonna take this and go mount it up onto the Megalo. So we're just gonna pop this little beast down here, make sure everything lines up. Drops on. Let me go on this side real quick. Something's not lined up right. There we go. Now if you look from the side here, you can see like the speaker actually hits this little shroud and it forces it to sound up out of this little speaker grill here. So pretty cool. So let's keep adding more junk. Just wanted to also show you guys, we got the cleaned up subwoofer back into the seat. So that guy fits in there nice. We put our little original Sega little nut guys there. So that's back in there. So now we're gonna head to the house and do more junk. All right, so here it is all mocked up. We have the front there, all the panels are lined up. The speakers are in there with the shrouds. And then we have the coin door, which we're still gonna be working on. We have our little wire harnesses hanging. We're gonna go ahead and take this home and work on those wood platforms there. And I also found this stuff. It's like a rubber mat. I don't know exactly what it is, but I got like, I think I got like 6 feet of it or something like that. So it's gonna go, basically, we're gonna cut it all the way across, and it's gonna go down there on the front and the bottom. So once this is laid out, this will look really, really cool. It won't have this dirty white floor, have like the rubber. And then I bought this can of 3M Super 77 spray adhesive. So we'll spray that down there. We'll spray the material, let it get really tacky, and then we're gonna line that up and trim it and get everything on there. So this is pretty much how everything's gonna line up. I'm actually really happy with this. The speakers line up, the shrouds still fit. We have our art on there, the panels mounted flush. So now that we know everything fits, we can go ahead and do our touch-up. We can get everything cleaned and kind of get back to building this thing. So it's actually coming together really good. We are gonna remove again the back of this little Star Wars art thing. That's gonna come off, but overall, this is pretty much how it's gonna look. So, all right, so we are back at the house. I went ahead and got most of this surface rust stuff off there, but what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take these little pieces of wood and go ahead and line these up here. Now the reason why I have these kind of marked off, this was earlier up at the shop, we marked pretty much where the overhang is gonna be for these. So these actually sit on the bottom. These little Brook PCBs are actually gonna fit here. So what I'm gonna do is just take some double-sided tape here, some foam tape, tape these pieces of wood to the bottom here, and then these will line up underneath the control panels, which we're then gonna mount these boards. So basically you have your board, your wood, and then your panel, and then these are gonna bolt up underneath. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this stuff mounted down, try to find some PCB feet to mount these guys, and we'll see what that looks like when we're done. All right, you can see here we got our little wood panels mounted, and we have our PCBs on here, and you can see they're on there really well. I use this 3M double-sided foam tape stuff. Works really well for this kind of stuff, and it also has like a little bit of a cushion, so when people are bashing on the joysticks and stuff, it's not going to shake loose. But we got these mounted, super solid. We sanded all that surface rust mount stuff off, so that is set. All right, so that is going to do it for this episode, guys. We're getting so much closer. All that stuff is done and ran. Next time we are going to be drilling that coin door, and we are going to be finishing and mounting the actual monitor, pulling the feet off of it, actually making it all come together. So we've got a lot of new subscribers. I do appreciate that, guys. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks for hanging out, and we're getting so close. So see ya.